Welcome to another episode of Power Core Productions and Podcastings, and I'm your host, Javon Harrington, back to hit you another video. And today we're going to be doing the Season 3 finale of What If Naruto Was in High School DxD, Season 3, Part 3, Love and Chaos. Now, as always, I want to say thank you to everyone who supports Power Core Productions and Podcastings. Cannot do it without you guys. You guys make the channel grow, you make the core grow, you guys make everything grow with this channel, and your support means a lot to me. Also, don't forget to check out the morning video that came out earlier today, that being What If Deku Was Trained by Master Roshi Part 2. That is out now as well. Also, as far as the upload scheduling for this week goes, as you know, the High School DxD series is going to be coming to an end at the end of this week. We start Season 4 tomorrow, and that will go all the way into Thursday when we wrap up that season. But I do have something special planned, and that is going to be an original movie that will be a part of this series, that being What If Naruto Was in High School DxD, the movie. And you know, it's just going to be an original story created by me. Hope you guys will enjoy that. And throughout the week, I'm going to be having various questions, simply because for this story, it's going to be mainly predicated on what you guys would want to see. Now, as far as how Season 5 is going to be, as you know, we don't know when High School DxD Season 5 is going to come out, and like I've said, after I finish the first 4 seasons, I want to let this series rest for a bit and wait and see what the news is going to be. If there's going to be a Season 5, it's going to come out within the next year or two, so around that time, if no Season 5 has been announced, then like I've said, I will just carry on and finish the series with the material that's currently out, that being the manga and the light novels, so that's something to look forward to as well. But also for people who will be asking, does Naruto have a harem in this series? Yes, he does. He does have a harem in this series, but the thing with the harem is it's not Naruto's primary focus. So what I mean by that is, yes, I am giving Naruto Issei's harem. The main reason I'm doing so is because for Naruto in this story-wise, if he's going to restore the shinobi, restore the way of the shinobi, for him to do that, he's going to have a lot of kids with diverse powers. So children of Naruto and Rias, children of Naruto and Akino, children of Naruto and Asya, Koneko, Zenobia, Irina. You get where I'm going at here. But there is something else that you guys might want to consider, is that in the movie, we might be bringing some people in from the Naruto universe. You know, Naruto left his old world. That old world is destined to ruin, but some people might survive. Of course, who gets to come over into Naruto's High School DxD universe? Who gets to survive? That's up to you. Maybe some girls get to survive and come along as well. Maybe that's more females that we can add to Naruto's household. I mean, we've got the Naruto world being replenished. We've got Vali as an Uchiha, but maybe we need some Byakugan. I'm just saying, if we have a Neji Hyuga that survived, he could potentially join a household. Not saying he has to join Rias's, but Sona. If Hinata survives, maybe Naruto gives up a pawn piece and she can join Rias's household as well. So I'm just saying, just throwing that out there, the different possibilities. But it's mainly up to you guys. You know, the movie, whether it's going to be canon to this series or not, it's up to you. If you guys end up liking this series, then I'll make the movie canon and it'll be included when we go into Season 5. If not, then it'll just be a one-off special. But there's a whole lot to get into with that, so I do hope you'll enjoy What If Naruto Was in High School DxD, the movie that will be coming out this Friday. Other than that, guys, do hope you guys will enjoy this series and everything else that is to come. Thank you for supporting the reboot on this channel. Really means a lot to me, and I am grateful for all of your support in that regards. But anyway, other than that, let's get into today's video. So as always, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. As Vali traveled through the dimensional gap, along with Arthur and Biko, Vali would sense a disturbance. He could feel the power of the red dragon, but not just the red dragon. He could also sense that fox. As they were preparing to turn around and make their way over to the underworld, they would come across the body of Asia Argento, pulling her into safety as they made their way to the battlefield. Meanwhile, an armored and now unhinged Four-Tails Naruto would begin to lay waste to the battlefield, destroying any and everything around him, but turning his fury to Shelba, the descendant of the Devil King Beelzebub. He would waste no time in destroying him, Shelba being unable to counter any of Naruto's abilities. Rias and the others would look on as Naruto would create a large biju bomb that would completely destroy the devil descendant. As Naruto would rage all along the battlefield, his mindscape would be completely broken, as deep within the only thing replaying in his head were images of Asia dying, failing to save her, the dreams that would constantly haunt him, Rainier taunting him for being unable to save anyone, the visions of the village laid in ruin, everyone dead around him, the hatred of the nine-tailed fox feeding into the boosted gear's emotions. Naruto found himself completely unhinged. As Vali would now arrive along with everyone else, seeing what had happened to Naruto, the others would be surprised to see that Asia were okay, Biko remarking that she were lucky that they had come across her in the dimensional gap, otherwise her fate would have been sealed. They would ask Vali if he could possibly stop Naruto, Vali wondering if even he had the power to deal with such a force. But however, he had been given a power himself, a power that could rival even the Nine Tails. He would unveil his Sharingan. Vali was not someone who slacked when it came to training or combat, and it didn't take long for him to gain the combat experience needed. The Sharingan were heavily tied to emotions. This was true. Only through great loss, suffering, hatred, pain, anger, and regret were usually the keys needed to unlock the Sharingan's true potential. However, the situation had now changed. Vali were virtually the last Uchiha in this situation, and as such, when he received his power, he had been given a gracious gift from Indra, allowing him to start with 3 Tomoe. Of course, however farther Vali got with his power, that would be up to him. But Vali would not be like any ordinary Uchiha. Unlike many, Vali had a complete mastery of his emotions. He were not so easily swayed, although he could reach his moments. And those were the moments that would be made to count. But for now, he only had to focus on subduing the Nine Tails and dividing the power of the Red Dragon Emperor to allow Rias a chance to reach him. As he would invoke the Juggernaut Drive, the large, white armored dragon, with his eyes emblazoned with the Sharingan, would lock on to the armored nine-tailed fox. holding Naruto in place as the two would begin the battle. Rias would follow close behind. Vali, even with his newly found power-up, found it hard to control Naruto. It was not as easy as one might think. However, a link would soon be established, Rias holding on to Vali as she would enter subconsciously along with Vali. The two walking through Naruto's subconscious space, a dark corridor that seemed to be unending. As they would soon make their way to the end, they would come across a great cage. Inside, they would see a little boy cowering in fear, and there would be another being standing, blocking the two from the cage. It would be none other than Naruto. However, this Naruto were not the one that they had come to know. This Naruto's eyes were purely dark, with a sinister grin on his face as he would welcome them. Ah, if it isn't Rias Gremory and Vali Lucifer Uchiha, I see. So it seems that even in another world, you Uchiha still find a way to enter into my domain. I do not know who you are, but I know who you are not. You are not Naruto. My, are we not perceptive? Are we, White Dragon? But I can assure you, I am indeed Naruto. I am just the thing that Naruto holds locked in a cage. Rias would ask for the fake Naruto to hand over the real one. But however, the fake Naruto did not feel like moving, as he were nothing but emotion. However, in this plane of reality, he were in control. As he would begin to morph and change, he would reveal that he were the things that Naruto kept laying inside. The things that he were afraid of. His fears, his anger, his hatred. All of it manifesting into one, and that being him. As the being would begin to change, he would soon turn from Naruto to that of Rainier. Rainier mocking Rias, stating that she was no good to Naruto, that deep down inside, Naruto had been scarred by her. Those scars could never be healed. As the small and frightened young boy that was Naruto were held by Rainier, Rias' anger beginning to bellow within her, as she would demand that she let the young Naruto go. Rainier would simply scoff, stating that in the end, she were the master of his soul. That no matter how hard Naruto tried, he could never let go of the anguish that was within him, because she was the one that caused it. Rias, with no hesitation, would let loose her inner power, revealing truly why she were known as the crimson-haired princess of ruin, blasting away at the figure that had been known as Rainier. Rias would walk over to the young Naruto, who would look up to see her, Naruto's tears falling from his face as he hugged her close, profusely stating over and over how sorry he was for letting Asuya die. However, Rias would reassure him that everything were fine, that Asuya were okay, and that everyone else were waiting for him. In the meantime, Vali would turn his attention over to the armored Ninetales, now seeing that it were getting harder and harder to control. However, the power was being divided and suppressed. He would just barely miss a biju bomb that had been blasted directly in his face, moving his head over to the side, but even still half of the armor was blown off. Soon enough, Rias would bring Naruto's true conscience back to the surface. She could hear the bellowing of Kurama, yelling that his plan had been ruined. As she would take Naruto back, the armor around Naruto would soon vanish, as well as the armor around Vali. As Vali would stand back to the distance, Orpheus would appear beside him. Naruto would then be reunited with everyone else, seeing that Asya were okay. Rias would also be holding close to Naruto as well, as he would thank her for rescuing him from his own despair. Rias would just be happy to have Naruto back by her side, and everyone else glad to see that Naruto had finally come back to his senses. In the meantime, Vali would call over Naruto, as there was something he wished for him to see. A hole in a dimensional gap would open, and there they would see the dimensional dragon himself, Great Red, or known as DxD. Vali would explain that his main goal in life was to defeat the Great Red Dragon, and that in the process they would help Orpheus take over his domain so that she could live in peace and in her silence. Vali would then ask Naruto if he truly wanted to defeat him. Naruto would remark that he did look forward to the challenge, not knowing fully how Vali had turned into an Uchiha. That was something that he too were curious in, but that he also looked forward to the idea of a fight. However, he did not want to fight to kill, but that also he had his own dreams. He would ask Vali that when the time came that they should fight, if he were to win, he would ask one thing of Vali. Vali would agree to this and ask what Naruto would want if he were the victor. Naruto would simply ask that they could establish a village in the underworld, that as a devil, he too should be welcomed, and also as the Uchiha, he wanted to bring him into the fold, not wanting to let that power be lost, but instead bring him back to his origins, to his roots. Vali would consider this. Whether he wanted to admit it or not, the two of them now shared a bond that could not so easily be broken. He would think it over as the two would give each other a fist bump in solidarity. It almost seemed as though you could see an after image between the two, that of two former legendary shinobi in Hashirama and in Madara. With that, Naruto would rejoin everyone else as they were preparing to leave and go home. However, before they could do so, Naruto would pass out and fall into a coma, his left arm transformed into that of the dragon. Naruto would be taken back to the Grimmery Mansion, where he would be given a bed to rest, while everyone would try to figure out what had happened to Naruto. Azazel would have a private meeting, speaking to the dragon arm, as Dreg would reveal that Naruto had somehow unawakened the Juggernaut Drive. However, it was in its incomplete form. Azazel would also ask about the other being within Naruto. Dreg would remark that for as long as he could remember, whenever Naruto entered into a great state of unrest or of strong emotion, that seemed to be when the dragon wished to take over. Azazel would ask if Kurama could speak to him, Dreg thinking that he could form the link. He would do so, and Kurama would speak through the dragon gauntlet. Azazel asking what Kurama were after. Kurama would simply explain that he wished for things to change. That unlike the precious boosted gear, he were not treated with the same respect. He felt as though there were an imbalance within Naruto, a balance that needed to be corrected. He hated the idea that while Dreg were favored, he were treated as nothing more but a burden, and even worse, Naruto felt that he had the true gall to ask him for power when he pleased. For 17 years, he lay trapped inside of a young boy with no way to escape, his life forever chained to this young boy. His recklessness, his carelessness could end up getting him killed along the way as well. And now of all times, Naruto wishes to borrow his power. Not even with a bit of thank you. No, Naruto took constantly from him, and he were tired of it. He were sick of being a tool in everyone's little game. It didn't matter if it were the Uchiha, or the devils, or the fallen angels. Kurama was no one's tool. And he wished to be treated as anything but. Azazel would also ask why it seemed as though Kurama harbored all of the negative emotion. Kurama would explain that long ago he were two halves of one whole. However, on the night that he had been taken over by the Uchiha and sent into a frenzy, being forced out of the previous host, that being Naruto's mother, his chakra, his very essence, was split into two halves. He was no longer balanced or whole within himself. All of his positive energy, or the yang, was sealed within the boy's father before he died. He was what remained. All of the hatred of the Nine Tails congealed into one being, the yin half. Azazel would then start to put things together, realizing that if Naruto had one half of what was supposed to be a whole Nine Tails, and that he had somehow inherited the boosted gear, it meant that Dreg must have most likely have taken the slot where the yin half used to reside. That now, instead of the yin and the yang being Kurama itself, Kurama now only made up the yin, while Dreg made up the yang, thus explaining the imbalance between the two. Why it was so difficult for Naruto to try to get a hold of his boosted gear. It all made sense now. He had to find the balance between Kurama and Dreg, two completely separate entities. In the meantime, he would forbid Naruto from using any more of Kurama's power, until the three could figure out a way to work together. It would be wise not to use it at all. If Naruto dwelled too deeply into his hatred, he could possibly become something far worse. Dreg agreeing, noting that if Naruto were to change completely into the Nine Tails, he's unsure if he could have the power to reverse it. If the beings were to split away, meaning that Kurama were freed, Naruto would barely be able to be kept alive, although thankfully with Dreg inside of him, he might be able to convert Naruto completely into a dragon, although that would be the worst case scenario. To have a free roaming dragon and Nine Tails running around, it would be absolute chaos. Azazel would then speak to everyone else, telling them of the situation at hand. He would look to Asuya, noting that she would probably be the only one able to heal Naruto, as the damage done to his body had not been external, but were internal. Using her sacred gear of Twilight Healing, Asuya would then heal Naruto and his spirit, bringing him out of the coma and back into consciousness. Everyone would be happy to see that Naruto were doing well, and that his mental capacity had been restored. He would apologize for causing so much trouble, However, everyone would assure him that he had been far more than trouble, that they were truly happy that their friend had returned. With that, everyone would return back home. They would also have to deal with Rosvisa, who had once again been abandoned by old man Odin, who had gone back off to Asgard and left her behind. Rias, feeling sorry for her, decided to bring her home. In the meantime, Azazel would take time to speak to Naruto, retelling him everything that happened and what he should look out for. Naruto would be worried, but he knew that now or later, he was going to have a serious conversation with both the Nine Tails and with Dreg. They couldn't keep this weird circus of imbalance between him and his body, fighting for control, trying to use one power over the other. Of course, they were two separate entities, but they had to be combined, joined together somehow. If they were truly his yin and yang of life, then he had to find a way to balance them within. That would be the only way to gain control, or he would lose himself in the chaos. Everyone would be getting ready for the school sports festival. Naruto would be doing the three-legged race with Asya, so they would be practicing. During one evening, Naruto would be making his way to the club room. As he came across Gasper, he would make his way to Rias, who seemed to be busy. She would seem as though she were out of focus and a bit uneased. Naruto asking what troubled her. Rias would explain that she had a lot on her mind and it was so much to deal with. However, Naruto would simply pull her into a hug, telling her that if she ever felt like there were too much for her to overcome, then all she had to do was put all of her burdens on him and simply let go. Meantime, Naruto would be finishing his training with Asya and would be making his way back to the club room to pick up a stopwatch. While on his way, he would see Koneko, who was going to pick up Gasper for the bread eating contest. However, as they made their way into the club room, they would see Gasper knocked out. As Naruto and Koneko would rush into the room, shocking the two of them, they would see Naruto next to Rias. Koneko would ask Naruto if he had made a clone by any chance, Naruto stating that he hadn't, knowing that he could only make 7 more of himself, as each clone took up 1 pawn piece. Naruto would create all of his shadow clones to make sure each one were accounted for, and in fact they were, now leaving 9 Narutos in the room, 1 Naruto too many. Now knowing that this were an imposter, Naruto would rush to get Rias away from him. However, the fake Naruto and Rias would both hold up their hands, sending out a wave of energy pushing Naruto back. Most of the other clones would disappear and Naruto would be back to fighting, as Rias and the other Naruto held their hands together. The Naruto would form a Rasengan, infused with Rias' magical power, as it began to grow in size, about to destroy the clubhouse completely. Naruto would grab both Gasper and Koneko, teleporting to one of the flying Raijin kunai that he had stationed all around the school in case of emergencies. The 3 would just barely escape as the entire building would be engulfed in a large explosion. As everyone would gather to see what had happened, Naruto, Koneko, and Gasper meeting with the other members of the House of Grimmery, they would all be given the news as Azazel and Rosvisa would arrive, telling that Rias Grimmery had been kidnapped and that the work had been done by none other than the god of mischief, Loki. group would get a call from Sir Zex along with his assistant Ajika, who would explain that by searching through all of the other dimensions, the only place that Rias Grimray could be would be in the dimensional gap, as she were not in any of the other realms. The group would wonder if there were any way that they could reach her to the dimensional gap. Naruto would remark that if she kept the flying rising kunai, he should be able to get to her and get back. However, Sir Zex and Ajika would warn that to go into the dimensional gap, it would be rather difficult, and he would have to make sure that he had a beacon or a way to get back. Naruto would just leave one of his flying rising kunai back with them, and he would ask for the members of the House of Grimry to channel their own devil power within, to create a strong enough beacon for him to hone on and get back. As the plan would be put into motion, Sir Zex would ask Naruto to save his sister. Naruto giving him a thumbs up, promising that he would return with Rias, and that he should just leave it to him. As Naruto prepared, knowing that he may have to go into a fight, he would be stopped as a dimensional portal would open. Vali, along with Biko and Arthur, would arrive, noting that they could see that Naruto were attempting to go to the dimensional gap. They would note that they would be glad to help, of course Vali having his own intentions in mind. However, Naruto would decline, noting that this was something that he needed to do himself. And besides, they were the enemies after all. Now wasn't the time for them to be fraternizing. Although, whenever this conflict came to an end, he would gladly accept his aid. Vali would respect Naruto's decision and wish him good luck. Arthur would give Naruto a special barrier, something that would protect him while in the dimensional gap. It would only last but for an hour, so he needed to do whatever he was going to do quickly. With that, Naruto would leave, everyone holding on to the flying rising kunai and channeling their devil power within, to create a strong enough beacon for him to sense and come back to. As Naruto would vanish and head to the dimensional gap, he would appear in an endless void right beside Rias, knowing that it had only been because of her keeping the flying rising kunai that he had been able to find her. He would reach out to her, telling her that it was time to go home. However, Rias would blast him away. Her eyes had become completely hollow and cold, almost empty. Naruto yelling at her to snap out of it, telling her that she was under control by Loki, and that she had to fight it so that they could go home. However, Dreg would warn that Rias were not going to come easily, and that they were going to have to take her by force. Rias' power would begin to flow all around her, multiple magical circles appearing, and she would launch her crimson lightning at Naruto. Naruto just being barely able to dodge and evade the attacks. He would blast out a Rasengan of his own, the Rasengan colliding with her magical circle, the two attacks emanating and erupting, pushing them back from one another. Dreg would warn that Rias was known as the crimson-haired princess of domination for a reason. She were not someone to be taken lightly. Naruto's mind would be filled with mixed emotions, with worries and with doubt. Another voice would appear in his mind. It would be his, but it wasn't Naruto's. Are you having problems there, Naruto? You can't do what needs to be done? How typical of you. Shut up. Now isn't the time for that. I've got to save Rias and get out of here. Oh, and tell, just how do you intend to do so? You know what? Just who the hell are you? And why the hell are you in my head? It's because I'm you, you dumbass. I am everything that you hate and that you fear. You want to be Hokage. You want to restore the way of the shinobi. You want all of these things, but you do not have the power to do so. Look at you. You're unbalanced. You're unfocused. You can't do what needs to be done. Oh yeah? And what exactly should I do? Become like you and just give up? Exactly. That's what you should do. You should give up, Naruto. Give up on this pathetic dream of yours. What are you? You the Nine Tails? No. But me and the Nine Tails, we have a lot in common. For example, we hate you. We hate looking at your face. We can't stand you. You know, me and the Nine Tails, we've been trapped inside of you for 17 years now. And you've lived your life in relative peace. But what about us, Naruto? Did you forget about us? If you hadn't met those little devil brats of yours, what was going to happen to Kurama and me? Were we just going to be thrown to the wayside? Were you going to lock us away deep in the abyss and throw away the key? You want to know why Kurama hates you? It's because you come to him when you need something. You use him the way you humans have always used him. Madara. Kurama was living in relative peace until he showed up. You think he wanted to attack that village? You think he wanted to kill your parents? He was resigned to his fate. But no. You humans had to ruin it all. And you have the audacity to harbor hatred towards him for power that you can't control because you're not strong enough? Don't make me laugh. You are pathetic. You are worthless. And you will never achieve your goals. So yes, we suggest that you give up. Give in to your hatred and become what you are always meant to be. Naruto would be fighting a two-way battle, mentally and physically, and he were losing on both sides. Kurama would look on as the two Narutos would engage in combat. No matter what the original Naruto did, the other one could match him easily, in skill and in technique. Naruto would try to throw his Uzumaki chakra chains, the clone would do the same. A Rasengan for Rasengan, wind bullet for wind bullet. Nothing he did seemed to work. As the two would continue their battle over and over, Dreg would be commanding Naruto's body on the outside, trying his best to fight off Rias, which was easier said than done. As the two continued their battle, Naruto, facing off with his evil doppelganger, he would slowly start to come to realization. He had said that he would one day try to conquer the hatred within himself. But yet here he was trying to fight hatred with hatred. He wondered what it was that he hated. What was the source of his anger? As he looked deep within his own subconscious, he would see it. He hated the idea of being weak, the idea of failing to live up to the expectations that he had set upon himself. He hated the idea that all of the sacrifices that had been made on his behalf had all been a mistake. Whether he wanted to admit it or not, deep down, he never felt like he were truly worthy of the sacrifice of his parents. His entire world that he once knew had been destroyed. He were the only one to survive. What gave him such a right? What made him so special over everyone else? Why couldn't he have been allowed to stay? Maybe he could have made a difference. Maybe he could have changed things. But now he would never know. Instead, he was sent to another world entirely. And even more so, he had to be saved yet again by Rias. Turned into a devil, he was given an opportunity to potentially restore the title of Hokage. And yet at every turn, he seemingly failed. He's let Asuya die. He's lost himself and lost complete control. He almost lost Rias. If it hadn't been for Kurama and Drag, he never would have gotten as far as he did. In a way, Naruto held more hatred towards himself than anyone. And he knew that deep down, he would not have gotten where he had if it were not for those who had helped him. Even Kurama. Naruto would stop the fight. The imposter Naruto wondering why he was giving up. However, he would say that he had not given up, but rather, he wanted to try to change his philosophy. Instead of fighting with hatred, he wanted to be different. He would remember the words of Konako, telling him that he were not like other Red Dragon Emperors. His power did not come from evil. It did not come from hatred. It came from love. He was the embodiment of that love. The love of two parents who had sacrificed themselves for the sake of their child. The love of a young girl who, despite facing many hardships, still continued to look on with a smile on her face. The love in the hearts of those who had been wronged, but yet still chose to fight for the side of good. Naruto's strength, his will, it came as the embodiment of that love. And it would only be through that love that Naruto could prevail. Kurama would watch on from his cage as the two Narutos would battle. However, Naruto would stop. Instead, reaching out his arms, he would then hug the other Naruto. The other Naruto being stunned, he couldn't believe what were happening. He would continue to punch at Naruto, letting out everything that he felt. But the original would simply close his eyes, telling him to let out everything that he felt. You can't do this. You don't get to change who I am. It's okay. Just let it out. And what's supposed to happen to me, huh? What? Huh? Do I just go? Are you just gonna lock me away? Huh? Because I'm not wanted here anymore? No. I'm not going to lock you away. You're gonna be with me. With that, the evil Naruto would disappear from within Naruto's psyche. As he would make his way through the vortex that was his own mind, the voices of the previous Red Dragon Emperors bellowing in the winds of crimson. Naruto would make his way towards that light once again, until eventually he would come face to face at the cage of the Nine Tails. So, what is your business for being here, you brat? I didn't come here to fight Kurama. I've simply come here to say... To say what? What could you possibly say to me? I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everything. It's not fair how I treat you compared to Dreg. I only come to you when I want something, and that's selfish. It's selfish, and I can't keep living like that. So I'm going to leave you now. Naruto would then change the way the cage was built, allowing Kurama free range and changing the view of the dimension within his mind. It changed to a landscape. Kurama would look at Naruto, puzzled, wondering if this was some kind of trick. What now? I'm free to kill you. I could take you over any time. Maybe, but I don't think you will. Do not become arrogant with me, boy. Do not think that I can be reasoned with. I am the Nine Tails. I understand that. But even still, I do want to try to combat the hatred. You can never combat hatred, Naruto. There will always be people who hate. Tell me, are you so arrogant to believe that you can change what's in someone's heart? Do you truly believe that you can conquer all of that hatred? If so, you are truly naive. However, before Kurama could even lay an attack on Naruto, Naruto would jump directly on Kurama's head. Maybe I am. It's better than doing nothing, though. I have to go save Rias now. Whether you help me or not, that's entirely up to you. I won't let you take over my body so willingly, but I do want to try to treat you with respect. So, whatever happens from here, Kurama, it's on you. But someday, I do want to conquer that hatred. And you know what? I'm going to come for that hatred that's inside of you also. With that, Naruto would leave the dimensional space. Switching over to his main body, Kurama looking on as Naruto and Dreg would enter into their balance breaker. Rias, now under the spell of Loki, would enter into a feral form of the Juggernaut Drive, also shrouded in the cloak of the Nine Tails. Naruto and Dreg giving it their all as they would combat the armored Rias. As the battle would ensue, Kurama would look on at Naruto as he continued to fight courageously, fighting off Rias, however not trying to harm her, but instead trying to fight off the evil that was within. Kurama would continue to watch as Naruto, while struggling a little, would hold true to his resolve. And even if the beast did not want to admit, his heart had been moved. He was no longer confined to his cage, but instead had been given a free place to roam. He wasn't sure what to make of it all. He wasn't sure how he was going to live. To be honest, he wasn't sure what to do now. Maybe he could take over Naruto's body. Maybe he could escape from his cursed shell. But maybe he didn't want to. As they would continue to look on, he could see, just for a faint moment, Naruto reminded him of someone, of an old friend. As Naruto would continue his fight with the armored Rias, still strong in his resolve, although it was pretty hard to deal with the feral form. Naruto would feel something beginning to change within him, as the armor of the balance breaker would completely disappear. He could feel a faint glow enveloping his body. Dreg could sense that this power was coming from Kurama. Naruto wondering what were happening. He would ask Kurama what was going on, but Kurama wouldn't answer, only growling Naruto, not needing to say any words, would understand. He would thank Kurama as he would take the power within himself, being enveloped completely in a different glow. His body, his aura were now completely different. What he had now achieved was KCM. As Naruto would turn his fight to Rias, he would state that now it was time to end things, and that it was time to bring her home. With that, Naruto would form a Rasengan. However, this Rasengan would be enveloped by wind. Forming into that of a shuriken, he would launch the wind Rasen shuriken at Rias. Rias creating a magical barrier to try to block the attack. However, Naruto had made it just strong enough to not only blow away her magical power, but to blow away the armor and the curse, freeing her as he would take her into his arms. Rias happy to see that Naruto had come to save her. Kurama would speak from Naruto's hand, remarking that this was an impressive power-up. Rias also wondering why Naruto were now glowing a bright golden aura, and wondering what the black markings were all around him. They would turn back to see the evil Naruto. Naruto setting Rias aside, as it were time to finish things with Loki once and for all. The imposter Naruto would change into his Four Tails form, enveloped in the dragon armor, howling and yelling like a beast, as Naruto would engage with his false self, the two fighting with one another, Naruto creating a Rasengan to collide with the biju bomb, as the two would blow away the dimensional space, feeling as if time and everything of its essence were being ripped apart. Naruto would overcome the imposter, knowing that it could not pale in comparison to his true power. As Naruto would put everything into his final Rasengan, the beast would be blown away completely, along with Loki's curse. As Naruto would reconvene with Rias, telling her that there were a lot of things they would need to talk about later, Rias would only cry tears of joy. To be reunited with Naruto, and for him to be the one who had saved her. As Naruto were preparing to teleport back to their home, Drag could sense the coming of Great Red, as they could see that the Great Dragon were traveling across dimensions. He would suggest in following it to see where it goes. The two would do so, soon arriving on a beach-like plain, as the waters would wash across the sand, and the night sky were adorned with bright stars and shooting lights. Rias and Naruto would look upon the beauty of the sky above. Naruto asking Rias what it was that she had that filled her with doubt. As he had been told how the curse had worked, he wondered what type of doubt Loki could possibly exploit in a girl like her. Rias would then remark that, deep down, she sometimes wondered if Naruto resented her, regretting for being made into a devil. He already had his own problems, and he had no obligation to be with her. In truth, he were free to leave if he wanted to, but she wondered what made him stay. Did he stay simply because of what she could offer him? Or did he stay because he wanted to? She wanted to believe the former rather than the latter, but sometimes it would be easier said than done. Naruto, his legend, it was growing more and more as time went on. Soon his fame would be widespread through the world itself. Many women would want to be with him. She just wondered if that time ever came, with Naruto still remember her. However, before she had a chance to even continue, Naruto would take a hold of her hand, telling her that she was someone he could never forget, because she had done so much for him in his life. He would reassure her that no matter what, how he felt for her was never going to change. He didn't have any regrets about the life he lived now. He only regretted that he didn't live this life sooner. He would tell her that if she were ever feeling any doubt, if things ever became too much for her to handle, then she should just rely on him, because after all, he was her pawn. With that, Rias would give Naruto a kiss before telling him that they should go home. With that, Naruto would focus on the kunai beacon, and they would arrive back in the House of Gremory. Everyone relieved that Naruto had made it back safely, and Sir Zex happy to see that his sister were safe and well, all thanks to Naruto. From a distance, Vali would be happy also. He was able to see the interaction between the Great Red and Naruto. Now seeing that he were even closer to his goals, he was satisfied with the outcome. As Naruto would be resting in his bed, he would have a vision. He would be sitting in a great hall. On one side, to his right, would be Kurama, the nine-tailed fox, and to the left would be Dreg, the red dragon. So, we finally get a chance to meet face to face a Nine-Tails. So, you are the great dragon, and you are now my better half. Did I lose something here, or did you two become friends? Oh, far from it, Naruto. We still can't stand one another. That is something that we can agree upon. But I must repay my debts. And with that being said, it seems as though we are on the verge of something. Yeah, and what's that? A new form of power seems to be in play for us, although we cannot work out the specifics at the moment. Do believe we will be having more talks in the future. Alright then, you two promise not to kill each other in here. I mean, I'm the guy that's gotta try to hold you guys together. Oh, there will be no need. I can handle someone like him. You would be wise to watch your mouth, dragon. Very well, Kurama. Do not take my name in vain. Alright, you guys. Just go back to your individual areas and don't cause a scene. Dreg, that means my left hand, and Kurama, that means my lower abdomen. You do not boss me around, boy. Yeah, you guys are so much to deal with. Naruto would reawaken, now seeing that he were back in the regular world, knowing now that the adventures were far from over. With everything returning back to normal, Rias would offer Rosvisa a chance to become a devil, giving her the last piece in her set. She would become a rook, alongside with Koneko, now having a complete team in the House of Gremory. Among other things, Naruto had actually become rather famous in the underworld, Azazel remarking that they wanted Naruto for a new TV show that was going to be written, a drama loosely based on his life story. It would be called Naruto, Ninja Storm. Naruto wondering who would come up with a name like that and why they would come up with a show like this. He would see the overall pilot script. Something about Naruto being a bit of a prankster, he goes around yelling "believe it" all the time. Something about a frog wallet, being teamed up with other ninja, fighting off some ninja in another land. An enemy that would be named Orochimaru, loosely based on what Naruto had been told by his father. Naruto was looking at the script, and all in all, the only things he couldn't figure out was why did he have to be partnered up with other people who seemed to be completely useless. Some pink-haired girl that couldn't seem to do anything, and there was this brooding emo guy who was supposed to be an Uchiha. Someone named Sasuke or whatever it was. However, Azazel would tell him not to worry too much about the semantics and that he should just focus on making the children happy. After all, they wanted to see their hero in action. And word was going around to the higher-ups that Naruto was actually in the running to become a potential Devil King candidate. After everything that Sir Zex had seen, he had at least begun to float around the idea to garner Naruto's support. Not that it would happen right away, but someday in the near future, serious considerations would need to be taken, as the idea of adding a fifth Devil King to the fore of the underworld would be something that would change everything forever. With that, Naruto would then go on to participate in the school festival along with everyone else, enjoying the good times, for at least as long as the good times would remain. As the legend of Naruto would continue to grow, not just in the underworld, but in all of the realms, it was now being taken note of a particular individual who would one day rise to become one of the greatest of all of the Devil Kings. Devil King Hokage, Naruto Uzumaki Hyodo. This concludes What If Naruto Was in High School DxD, Season 3, Part 3, the finale, Love and Chaos. Stay tuned for Season 4 as we will be starting that tomorrow afternoon. And stay tuned for everything else that is Power Core Productions and Podcastings. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is Power Core. With that, that's going to wrap up today's video. As always, I'm Javon Harrington with Power Core Productions and Podcastings, signing off, and I'll see you next time.